When I was 13 years old, I used the family computer to print out a couple pictures from Tori Wilson's Playboy shoot, and I folded them up and I hid them in the corner of my attic. And then I got really paranoid that somebody was going to find them, so I took them out, I lit them on fire, and I flushed them down the toilet. But the paper got stuck while the toilet was flushing, and it left a burn mark on the porcelain. It probably would have just been easier to explain the images than the burn mark. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts, and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. All Elite Wrestling founder and co-owner Tony Khan was recently interviewed on the NFL Network. He was sporting a neck brace attributed to the brutal and devastating attack carried out by his own employees. Tony mentioned that you can catch AEW on Wednesdays and Saturdays on both TNT and TBS. He mentioned that you're going to have to tune in to get an update on his condition. And he also compared WWE to convicted rapist Harvey Weinstein.
We are like the Pepsi of pro wrestling, and we're up against a really evil juggernaut. WWE is our competitor. That's who we're facing. AEW, like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. WWE's like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. And I'm really proud of what we do down here.
In the moment, the remark seemingly came out of nowhere. The hosts are instantly uncomfortable and they try to wrap up as soon as possible. In retrospect, it's pretty clear that this line was rehearsed ahead of time, which brings a whole litany of questions to the table. Chief amongst them being, why can AEW never, ever, ever, ever stop ruining their greatest moments by creating an unnecessary distraction? That was one idea for this episode, and it would have been really easy to write because there's so much to choose from. MJF wrote a Players Tribune article before the World's End pay-per-view back in December of 2023. Twice in this article, he voices his displeasure with something behind the scenes overshadowing his big on-screen moment. More recently, after the Dynasty pay-per-view, Will Ospreay made it clear that he doesn't want to talk about WWE or Triple H anymore, and that he regretted his original comments. His original comments which he made on AEW television. His original comments which were not targeted at his pay-per-view opponent, Bryan Danielson, but at the creative lead of the other company. On the go-home episode of Dynamite prior to the Dynasty pay-per-view, the biggest news of the week had nothing to do with the World Championship main event between Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe. The news instead revolved around the same guy MJF was complaining about in his December article. In October of 2022, Ricky Starks tweeted this, which has nothing to do with any ongoing storylines on television. This is in reference to a real-life backstage altercation between Andrade and Sammy Guevara. I swear, this seems to never end with AEW. But I don't want to talk about AEW's pattern of ruining its own greatest moments and causing its own distractions. That would be too easy. Nor do I want to focus on the Harvey Weinstein punchline. Though it was spicy, I don't care about the punchline. I'd rather talk about the setup.
We are like the Pepsi of pro wrestling.
Is that statement true? Is AEW really the Pepsi of professional wrestling? I happen to quite like Pepsi myself. I'm a big fan, so I'm not ready to go handing out the honors so willy-nilly. Pepsi has been around forever. Its earliest incarnation dates all the way back to 1893. And holy hell, are there a ton of flavors to choose from today. Did you know that in Japan they have Pepsi salted watermelon? How about Pepsi White, which is yogurt flavored? Who the fuck would want to drink that? Which AEW wrestlers embody the many flavors of Pepsi? I think that this might really help us get to the bottom of things. The original, Pepsi Prime we'll call it. I don't think you can look any further than Kenny Omega. In the same way that a can of Pepsi will pair perfectly with a slice of pizza or a burger and fries, you can put Kenny Omega in there with literally anybody, and he's going to tear the house down. I think That's a layup. That's an easy one. Pepsi Nitro isn't even really a soda. You know, they market it as a nitrogen-infueled drink with smaller bubbles, but honestly, it just kind of tastes like a can of soda that you opened 4 days ago, and now it tastes as flat as a Dynamite audience sounds when the Acclaim's music hits. Nobody wants this. Everybody wishes it would just go away. Pepsi Nitro is Chris Jericho. But hold on. This isn't just about flavors, is it? No, it can't be. We've got to dig deeper. There's got to be more here than just one-to-one matchups. I started thinking about the Pepsi Challenge, which was a marketing campaign kicked off in the 70s. PepsiCo were so sure that their product was superior that they began holding blind taste tests in stores across the country, where the claim was that the vast majority of participants would choose Pepsi over Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, the undisputed number one in the soft drink industry, initially panicked, introducing New Coke, a supposedly new and improved formula. They'd hoped this would turn the tide as far as public perception was concerned. It didn't. Coca-Cola loyalists actually hated it, forcing the red brand to throw this new formula in the trash and go back to what made it great in the first place. The Coke brand remained number one and still is to this day. I figured I would put this concept to the test right here, right now on 616 Wrestling. I've got a can of Pepsi and I've got a can of Coca-Cola. Now this isn't going to be a blind taste test, and I actually happen to enjoy both brands, so it's not like I have any favoritism influencing my interpretation. Both brands have their own unique identity that sets them apart from the opposition. A strong line right down the middle that cannot be copied or compromised by their competitor. This test here today should end the confusion over the whole is AEW Pepsi thing. So, let's get to it. Oh yeah, that's good, that's good. Hit myself in the lip a little bit there. Hold on. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, no question. That's a 2019 Cody Rhodes right there. I'm getting notes of betrayals from best friends. I'm getting unprotected chair shots to the head. Oh yeah. Nothing can compare to that. That's good stuff. But let's change the channel. Here we go. Oh yeah. You gotta love that sound, right? A little bit classic Coke. Almost hit myself in the lip again. Yeah, decidedly different. That's no confusion. That's a 2024 Cody Rhodes right there. Fuck! Maybe they're not that different. Maybe at the end of the day, it's just two companies who are releasing a fairly similar product. Both are good. Both have their own fan bases that would blindly follow them to the ends of the earth. Sometimes the second place Pepsi can even inspire Coke to be better, which is great. It's great for soda drinkers because now they've got a ton of variety to choose from, and it's even better for the soft drink industry. With two massive companies now, twice as many people can make a living. I do find it hilarious though that the owner of the company would link AEW to the Pepsi brand, as there is one guy in the history of the professional wrestling business that you think of when you hear the name Pepsi. One guy. This isn't a reach. It's one of his nicknames at this point. Now, I'm not saying this was done on purpose. I don't think that this comment was a veiled shot at CM Punk, but it is another link in the chain. The chain which is tied around the ankles of AEW, shackling it in place when it should be moving forward. Airing the footage of CM Punk choking Jack Perry is a very Pepsi move. PepsiCo loves to use their airtime to talk about Coca-Cola when they should just be promoting their own product. They've done it for years. The footage of CM Punk spiked Dynamite's rating that week, with that segment being literally the only quarter hour to grow in viewership for the entire programming block. Tony Khan would head to Twitter immediately to brag about the fact that this was AEW's highest rating in months. Now, I think that this inadvertently shined a light on the fact that multiple title matches, the debut of Mercedes Moné, and a bunch of other things that should have been blockbuster events were outshined by 1 minute of blurry security cam footage with no audio starring a guy who works for Coca-Cola. I mean, WWE. Swerve Strickland, in my opinion, is a massive star. The guy oozes machismo, to borrow a term from Scott Hall. He's got an incredible look. He's extremely talented. The arenas are screaming his name. Swerve's journey to the AEW World Heavyweight Championship culminated at Dynasty in a fantastic match that saw him defeat Samoa Joe. Over the next 3 weeks, Swerve would have banger after banger after banger, showing audiences both in the arena and on television that this run was only just getting started. But nobody's talking about Swerve. Everyone is talking about Tony Khan's insane, out-of-left-field, unnecessary comments about WWE. I didn't want to do an episode on AEW's inability to never, ever, 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 ever get out of their own way. I wanted to do an episode on the AEW and Pepsi comparison. But I think we've learned over the last 10 minutes or so that maybe they're the same thing. Maybe it's AEW's obsession with what's going on the other channel. Maybe that's what makes them the Pepsi of pro wrestling. Tony Khan doesn't care that nobody's talking about his world champion. Tony Khan doesn't care that the episode where the Elite and the returning Jack Perry trying to break his neck drew their second lowest television rating in Dynamite history. He doesn't care. That doesn't matter. Because did you see how much attention we got from what I said about WWE? That's 616 Wrestling for this week, Dan Dans. I hope you've learned something today. I think I've learned that this is a 2019 Cody Rhodes, and this is a 2024 Cody Rhodes. But how do I get Brandy Rhodes? Brandy Rhodes. Oh, it's Dustin. Oh, it's Dustin.